Hey, what's up, you guys? Kurt Stubbs here from the Drive to Dayton podcast. If you notice, it's just me today. I will hopefully have Mike and TJ on in the next week or two to discuss their recap of July. They were all over the place, so I'm really interested to ask them some questions and get their input on that. Um, Other than that, just some probably top end news around the state. You have Darren Peterson, a consensus top five kid currently in the class of 2025. He left CVCA according to his social media account and will be heading to Huntington Prep, who is an Adidas school. Darren plays for an Adidas program in the grassroots circuit for Phenoms United. So it's pretty obvious the connection there of going to Huntington Prep. So Darren joins Jerry Easter, who is going to La Lumiere next year in Indiana, and Lincoln Cosby, who is a rising freshman that was supposed to be going to Lakota West. He is, I believe, from the Nashville area, but they moved to Lakota, where he was going to play at Lakota West, but he is going to go play for Overtime Elite now. So those are some big names that have left the state, but basketball will go on this year, 2023, 2024. Colin White announced his top five. No surprise, Ohio State was in that top five along with Northwestern. Butler was in there, I believe, and a couple other schools. So interested to see where Colin ends up. So that's kind of the big newsworthy headlines from the Ohio high school basketball scene at this point. But like I said, hoping to get Mike and TJ together for one last podcast to kind of wrap up summer, and we'll do that here in the next week or two. I've got school starting actually August 10th, so a week from yesterday, so things will be getting busy. My wife is currently getting pretty close to her due date, which is August 25th. So we'll be welcoming a baby girl into the world. So we will have a 4-year-old and a newborn. So things will be really busy, especially around the start of basketball season. But hopefully get some content out to you come basketball season with a season 2 of the Drive to Dayton. May just be a little bit more tired in those episodes. For today, kind of what I was, I do the basketball podcast, and most people know me from Ohio HS Hoops, if you know me. But I'm a sports guy. Probably high school sports first, and then, I obviously follow the college and pro stuff as well. More like basketball, football, baseball. If it's a big event in the other sporting realm, I will watch that as well. But I got to thinking the other day, my love and passion for sports started in the Ohio Valley on the eastern side of the state of Ohio. And, I'm fortunate and blessed now to live and teach and work in a school district that has high level athletics here at Pickerington Central. So every Friday night I get to see an unbelievable football team take the field, whether it's at home or away. Basketball, the same thing. Baseball, both Pickerington Central and Pickerington North. Pickerington North won a state in baseball not too long ago. Pickerington Central has been dominant in track on the boys' side of track. So just a real outlier of places to be able to be within 5 minutes to go watch those youngsters compete. But my love for athletics started in the Ohio Valley, and as all this craziness has been happening with the realignment talk, and even before that with the portal and NIL and all those things. And if you like all these new things, that's fine. You know, we can always agree to disagree, and that doesn't mean that I wouldn't still have a Bob Evans breakfast with you just because we disagree on something like that. But you know, I'm more you know, especially you know, where college is really in the focal point of the news right now. I love the regionalization of the rivalries of college sports. Um, you know, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole of the paying of the players and things like that in the transfer portal. Everybody has their opinions on that, but just strictly from the alignment thing, you know, I heard a quote this morning. It was talking about that not all change is progress, and I feel like that with this alignment. It is crazy to me that in a world of college sports, that Oklahoma and Oklahoma State won't play every year, that Texas and Texas A&M don't play every year. I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? And I know what we're doing. It's a peeing match for who can get the most money from these TV deals and networks and all this stuff. And there's people smarter than me that know more about it. But it all comes down to money, and it always does. You know, money is not a problem. The love of money is a problem, and that's where we're at. But this got me thinking about, and I was reminiscing about growing up in the Ohio Valley, and you know, we romanticize the past, we do, but it was great. And looking back, I started out thinking about something, and I went down a rabbit hole because my passion lies in research and sports history. If you let me do that 15, 16 hours a day, I would have no problem doing that, researching and just studying old sports history. It really, really is my passion. Like I said, I like to watch big games in present day sports, but boy, the history of sports really is what where my passion lies. So I got going down this rabbit hole because what it started with was I was thinking about the year 1994 when it came to Ohio Valley football. And young kids, and when I say young kids, I'm talking like people under 30. You have really, under 30 living in the Ohio Valley, you have no idea how good football was in the 80s and 1990s. So when I went down the rabbit hole, I started just looking back at like the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And if you want to read what I wrote on that, I'll post it in the description of this show, which is a good time to say, if you like this show, if you like the drive to Dayton, if you like the content we're providing, please subscribe. Click that bell for notifications. Would really appreciate that. But so if you want to read what I wrote when I went down that trail, it might, I mean, if you're really, really bored, but I'll keep this short. I want to just talk about real quickly about that 1994 season. It is really the glory year of Ohio Valley football, which is the lifeblood of the Ohio Valley. And it still is today, even though the population is declining. The teams and the depth are not nearly as good because so many people have moved to bigger cities for job opportunities. So kids that would be playing at those schools now are playing in Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, Akron, Cleveland, places like that. So, but this year, 1994, the glory year, the golden year of football in the Ohio Valley. How great was it? It was so great that it trumps the following year, which was 1995, which we could have had two Ohio State champions that year. Bellaire, in my mind, I was at the game, is still the better team. They did not win that day, 50-44. They lost to Versailles. And double or triple overtime, I can't remember, but to me, Bellaire was still the better team. They didn't win. They were runner-up. And then Monroe Central lost to Lisbon David Anderson. I think it was like 17-14. That game was at St. Clairsville. I want to say it was a regional final. Many opportunities to win that game. David Anderson went on to win the state championship, kind of going away. So we could have had 2 state champions that year, but 1994, the year before that, it's just an incredible year. So let me just read off some of these numbers to you. Steubenville Big Red, who is the kingpin of football in the Ohio Valley, finished 12-1. They were upset in the state semis by Beloit West Branch, who went on to win the state. They lost that game 31-28. You're not going to tell me any difference. Big Red was the best team in the state that year in that division. Beallsville, yes, Beallsville, 11-2. Lost in the state semifinals to McDonald. Wellsville, 13-1. Lost in the state finals to Versailles. Buckeye Trail, 11-2. Lost in the state semifinals to Wellsville. That game was at St. Clairsville. Buckeye Trail originally was not even in the playoffs at the end of week 10, but there was an error in the points which got them in as the 4th seed, and they ended up losing in the state semifinals. Buckeye Local. If you know where Buckeye Local is now, the program now, I heard recently that they may have 30 kids out for the program. This was a team in 1994, led by Ron Poblish, that finished 13-1 and lost in the state championship in Division II to Chardon. Division II state championship, Buckeye Local. State runner-up. Now, Monroe Central, 9-2. Lost to Beallsville, who I told you already was in the state semis, 7-6. And then lost in the first round of the playoffs, 29-26 to Berne Union. Steubenville Central also was in the playoffs that year, 8-3. Lost a couple of their losses. One was the Big Red, Steubenville Big Red. That's back when they played Big Red. They lost to Wellsville in the playoffs, who was in the state final. Now, how about these teams that didn't make it? Bellaire coming into week 10, 9-0. Loses to Ferry in week 10, 35-27. They get left out. Really, really strong Bellaire team. Martin's Ferry, 8-2. They lost to 14-0, they lost 14-0 to Steubenville Central, and 14-13 to D2 state runner-up Buckeye Local. Impressive. Beat 9-0 Bellaire. Who else do we have here? We had River, 8-2. Lost in week 6 in overtime to Martin's Ferry. Lost in week 10 in overtime to Shadyside. Shadyside was 6-4, but lost to Monroe. They lost to Beallsville, Wellsville, and UL. And then this team, not so much in the Ohio Valley, but Coshocton was 9-2 that year. Lost in the regional semis to Nelsonville, York. So, playoff teams: Steubenville, Beallsville, Buckeye Local, Buckeye Trail, Monroe Central, Wellsville, Steubenville. 2 state runners-up, Buckeye Local and Wellsville. Steubenville, state semifinals, should have won it all that year. Beallsville, state semifinals. Buckeye Trail, state semifinals. Just an absolutely incredible year. You'll never see anything like it again in the Ohio Valley. You can take that to the bank. Just so much depth, so much talent, so much support. I mean, the Ohio Valley football scene still gets great support. It is the lifeblood still, but if I could take you back to 1994, like I said, if you're under 30, you just would not believe it. But yeah, it was just, I was reminiscing, and that year just jumped out to me. So, like I said, if you want to read the other part of it, I kind of typed up something about the rabbit hole that I went down. But like I said, if you're really bored, you could take a read of that. And you're probably extremely bored now by this, but I just wanted to get this out there, especially for my Ohio Valley people, just to remember that year, 1994, the gold standard, the golden year of Ohio Valley football. Hope everybody has a great rest of their summer. Like I said, Mike and TJ and I will be on hopefully sometime the next week to recap the summer. And then we will see you once again, God willing, at the beginning of the season, basketball season, for the start of the Drive to Dayton podcast. Take care, everybody, and have a great rest of your summer.